Hi folks, in this video I just thought I'd do a quick demonstration on how you use the AccessPack Manager system to program, control and report on the AccessPacks that you have installed in your location. It all starts with a visit to the Sol Digital website at soldigital.com.au, or accesspack.com will get you there too. And then we click on the login link, and the beep you hear is the card reader prompting me to put my license card in order to log in. Now what you see there is a site that represents our location here and the things that we have. And there are a couple of types of icons here. You'll see these factory icons. They represent physical locations. You'll see inside those physical locations, you'll see icons that represent individual pieces of equipment. So the compressor, the laser cutter, the bench drill, etc. And there's a third class of icon, which is this thing that looks a bit like a driver's license or an ID card, and that represents types of equipment. And you'll see how we use those in just a second. So, let's say we have a new employee, and this new employee, his name's Frank. If I wanted to put his surname on there, I just type it in, Frank Smith, and Frank Smith has just joined us. Now we're going to let Frank use the bandsaw, but not anything else. We're going to let him use the Pay-O-Matic, and the Pay-O-Matic is an AccessPack that we've configured to do time sheeting for us. It's one of the things that you can do with time recording is one of the things you can do with AccessPack. And for now, that's it. We're going to put an expiry date on Frank's card for this time next year, and that's pretty much all we need to do to give Frank access to both the SAW and the time recording system. Over time, as we train Frank and he gets better, we teach him how to use some of the other equipment we have in the workshop. We may eventually get to the point where he's qualified to use all of the equipment that's in that workshop, and at that point it becomes a lot simpler to simply use that token on his card. So now we say Frank can use the time recording system and anything that we call workshop equipment. Again, it's very simple. We can also put expiries on individual tokens on the cards. But that's about it. That's all you really need to know about programming cards and giving people access to equipment using the AccessPack Manager system. Now, if I take this card off the reader, and I come up here, I click on the top level. If anybody wants to know who has access to what, you have an audit or something like that, we can click on all permissions, and we see each person and what they have access to. You can also work it the other way around. You can click on an individual token and you can say who has this token on their card, and in this case it's Frank Smith. Back up here again, we have an icon which is expiry alerts. Okay. And this is a little box where you tell the system when you want to be told when a permission is about to expire, either on the day, first of the month, or a certain number of days. And you can just put in an email address in here. So I'm going to say more@com. Click save, and now I'll get an email on the day that any permission expires. Now, so much for setting things up. If you also have a site sentinel at your location, then it will be streaming data back. And the data that it streams back, well, let's take a top level look. Let's look at the usage console for the workshop. So here's all of our pieces of workshop equipment. We can see that the laser is currently turned on and Doug's been using it for 14 minutes. You can see both the router and compressor. These are in basic mode at the moment, where we're not recording the person's name. We're just recording the ID number of the card. And so on and so forth. And we can see that the compressor's pretty busy. It gets used 80% of the time. A lot of our other stuff is only fairly lightly used. If we had maintenance intervals configured, you would see those in these locations too. So that's just a top level view of what we have on site. If we go down to an individual piece of equipment, let's pick on the laser again. we could see the raw usage logs of who used it and when they used it and how long they used it for. We can export those to Excel if we want to, using this icon down the bottom here. We see a breakdown of by hours of who's used it. We can have alert settings for individual pieces of equipment. So we could be told, for instance, whenever this piece of equipment is used, or whenever it's tagged out, or whenever it's overdue for maintenance. The operators tab report we've looked at, that's who has that token on their card. And we have another one here, which is really designed for equipment that is used by multiple departments, and you want to break it down and see which department used the equipment how much of the time. Really useful for things like leased forklifts, where charges are billed back to departments. Now it's the first of the month here, so there isn't or near the first of the month, there isn't a lot of data here. If I look at last month, there we go. And so here we see the usage broken down by department. Now, if I go down to bench drill here, you can see I'll have some pre-starts against that. So these are pre-starts that have been done by people, and then the system requires them to do pre-starts. I will have a separate video on pre-starts. If you look at the videos tab on the product webpage, you'll see an example of how that works. But this is where they go, and you can see these are the answers that the guys gave, that Doug at this date and time gave to those questions. So that's about it also for reporting. It's quite a straightforward system. It's easy to use, and the intention is that it's used by people who actually have the say in who uses what equipment, rather than the gatehouse or the HR people or something like that. It is designed to be easy to use and to be used by everybody. Anyway, I hope that makes it easier, and I hope that sheds some lights on how you use AccessPack Manager to look after your AccessPack system.